Am I strong enough to accept my own thoughts and to carry the burden on my own words? What I think is that you are all puppets in the hands of God. You are all being acted upon by God. There is no freedom in the world. You are um, the unconscious actors of God's will, and the world is a theater, a tragedy. And I will read you a passage from the introduction to the exegesis of Philip K. Dick about the essence of the universe. The beautiful and imperishable comes into existence due to the suffering of individual perishable creatures who themselves are not beautiful and must be reshaped to form a template from which the beautiful is printed, forged, extracted, converted. This is the terrible law of the universe. This is the basic law. It is a fact. Also, it is a fact that the suffering of the individual animal is so great that it arouses an ultimate and absolute abhorrence and pity in us when we are confronted by it. This is the essence of tragedy, the collision of two absolutes. Absolute suffering leads to, is the means to, absolute beauty. Neither absolute should be subordinated to the other, but this is not how it is. The suffering is subordinated to the value of the art produced. Thus, the essence of horror underlies our realization of the bedrock nature of the universe. So, being is tragic because it is a conflict of opposed determinations. And Nietzsche wrote in The Birth of Tragedy that the Greeks had a tragic view of existence, and their realization of the horror inherent in existence enabled them to produce the beauty of their art and mythology and the beauty of their pantheon, the gods of ancient Greek mythology. And there's this quote in Apocalypse Now by Marlon Brando who says, "You gotta make friend with horror." And God has to become friend with himself because he's the cause of all horrors. God has to reconcile himself to his own negativity. And what Nietzsche meant by the Übermensch is actually God entering his own creation and confronting his own horror and accepting it and accepting the beauty that comes out of it and wishes for an eternal return of all that is, an eternal recurrence. And when you accept what is as having to be necessarily eternally recurring in all its aspects, you attain divine consciousness. And der Übermensch, the overman, is Christ, who absorbed within him the negativity of the real and transcended it as beautiful, and that's it. So Philip K. Dick, Coppola's movies, Nietzsche, everything is starting to make sense, and I must accept reality. I must accept being, and being is tragic, and I descended upon earth to teach myself and therefore others, der Übermensch, the other man, he who accepts what is in all its ugliness and beauty, drama and comedy, pain and redemption. So yeah, um, he who accepts the inherent tragedy of being understands the meaning of being. To be or not to be, from a Hegelian perspective, there is no choice, because to be being means to be nothing. So whether you are or you are not, that's the same thing, because nothing becomes something and something becomes nothing, and that's an eternal recurring cycle. And I have to find myself in the world, and I have to find within myself the moral strength to accept the world as it is. And yeah, so you are all puppets in God's eternal tragedy.